Hi class, I wanted to give you some video feedback. I'm going to look at these as a first-time site visitor, even though I've been through them. And we're going to look at the usability and the layout, what was required, and see where you are in those steps. And then you will take that feedback and you will resubmit next week with your edits. All right. Now, if you make a high score or 100 this week, that doesn't guarantee 100 on the final. Okay, that just means you met the criteria for this particular stage, okay, this benchmark. All right, let's jump right in. Okay, George, immediately, because I'm on your homepage, we want to make sure we have some hierarchy of your text, okay? So this is here. This may need to just kind of come up here, or one of them needs to move over a little bit, but usually the one on top is larger, typically. But, and it's not that that can't work. Probably I'd close this space up just a little if you can. But we have this over here, which is basically a heading, and it's lighter than the subheading. So this would be bigger. And I'm thinking that maybe on the example, I didn't show it strong enough. I made assume that you would make a greater, change in point size. But I think some students followed me very specifically, so I'm going to have to update that video. But that's what I would do. I would make this much larger. This is going to your portfolio. I would remove these, and I would close this space up. I would make sure that this is in your footer. It may be that it's the same color, we'll see, but I would close this space up. All right. When you get to week 4, there's going to be you'll be looking at contrast and accessibility. Some of these things might have to have greater contrast. Left align here, and you may not need 3 things here. You could just have your name or just about, okay? A little more space here for sure. Bring this down a little bit. It's great photo, great color. Nice job there. You do want more contrast here in your navigation. And let's left align this. I checked the size on this. I think it was 16 points, which is not bad, but somehow it's looking smaller. Okay. Sometimes I'm looking at the spacing of the original text and sometimes something else. Okay, so that's what we're looking at here. There's a 10 point in here somewhere, but make sure that it is at least 16 points, if not 17 or 18. All right, left align and center. Okay, so this is off center for sure. Now with these, you want to make sure you add a description. All right, I really like how they are. You may need a description below them, or beside them, or on a layout overlay if that template gallery provides that for you. Okay, and higher contrast there. Contact, again, that's going to be centered. Move to the left. You can close this up. And good contrast here. This is in your footer. Okay. All right. All right, great. Let's look at the mobile version. Yeah, a little bit of stacking here, right? We want to be pretty deliberate about our text. As you see, this is larger, smaller. This is a subheading size. They're about almost the same, but then this gets smaller still. So that's really what we want to go for, a larger, then a smaller, and smaller still. Okay, was I already on the about? Okay, so here's what's happening. You don't need to call it homepage. You can remove that, in fact. It's fine. Okay. You have it up here, so you don't need it down there. Okay. We have so much in your header that we're required to scroll when we go on another page. We should be able to get into the content a little quicker. Not necessarily this, but you do want to get in there pretty quick. Okay. All right. Great job so far. You do want to make sure that you add a social media link, either LinkedIn, a YouTube link. Let's see, wherever you are planning or are already showing your work. Okay. All right. Let's look at the next one. All right, Devonta. Nice color for sure. You want to make sure you blur any of these logos because once you're no longer a student, remember you're not going to be protected under fair use laws. Okay, let's bring this down to probably align with that. So it's not quite so close there. And just that might be all you need to do, but I'd probably bring this down a little more space here and bring that down. Let's check it out. Okay, probably this is going to need higher contrast when you get into it next week. And let's make our spacing equal between our projects. Okay, good. You're letting us know exactly what you did. All right, now here you want to go into your header and you want to adjust the background. You want to make that background 100% opacity, right? So that it's not overlapping here. Okay, you can make it white if you like, but do that. You may want to have this the same upper lowercase. Nice. This is a good layout here. Good. See, there we want to fix that. All right, let's take a look at the mobile. Okay. Okay. So you have that down here. Okay. I want to close that up just a little bit. Yeah. The contrast is going to be questionable next week. I'd probably make this larger than this, just a little. They're very close, and so we want to definitely have distinction there, starting with the larger one. All right. Good job. Feel free to take out these M dashes. That is something chat likes to do. AI likes it. It's not incorrect. It's just not what people do, what humans do. So, it's okay. There's enough on your site that's going to look unique, but just keep it in mind as you're moving forward, okay? All right, good job. All right, I really love the design of this site. I think it's beautiful. Make sure you're not using your home number. That's a free Google Voice number, for example. Good job linking up, and definitely make sure that this is not an address, okay? But what I do want to remind you is that we need to have your name and content creator, small animator up here. So when we, come over to the about, we have all that information still. Okay, but I do love what you've got here. Great photo, just the right amount of description here for you. Do make sure if it's not a studio, that we're not saying our. If it's you, then just say, my or these. Okay, fun, love it, love it. Okay, make sure we got the same amount of spacing. I think this is probably better. This is a little tighter. Nice. Okay. Yeah. I do kind of want to get into your work sooner, but you know, yeah, I probably would consider bringing a piece up here. And it's okay at the bottom, but if it were at the top, you'd probably want to take a line off. But, you know, that might be a nice piece at the top to introduce rather than just the text. You're not going to lose points over it, but I think that, you know, this is really nice color, and this is really great color too for you. And then you can get into these animations. All right, let's take a look at the mobile. Yeah, we want to close up that space for sure. Nice place for one of your art pieces, but you want your name up here and what you do. You know, if you're a digital artist, that would be nice and short. Let's make sure we have the same amount of spacing everywhere. Okay. Yeah, you probably close that up a little bit, maybe even start with the email. Yeah, I'll close that up a little. You're going to have your name and what you do. And you know, no doubt when you get time, you're going to go in and, you know, further design your, you know, your site. This is your draft and you're getting everything in its place. You might have a social icon right here. Maybe your TikTok. If it's professional, that might be something you want to send them to. All right. Great job. Love what's going on here, the direction it's taking. All right. Let's take a look. Dejan, I don't know that that was here last time I checked this, but I mentioned, and I'm not usually a fan of images that are in a circle unless they're really perfectly done, but I think you're going to want to use an oval frame for this and place it in the center of these if that's what you're going to have back here. I also would make sure you rename this, and that will be caught next week when you go into your accessibility assignment. Let's see. These need to link up. That is linked. Good. You can get a Gmail account if you want, and it won't be a student. Close this up. Close that up. And okay, so these can come out. They're not doing anything. So I would take that strip out. That section can just be deleted. Bring this one up a little bit. All right, so let's get into this. Logos are not images. They're too hard to reproduce. They don't read well when they're small. So we don't use images like that for logos. This is fine. I do want you to make sure that the background is 100% opacity for your header. If this is your whole header, I'll find out in a minute, then it's too deep, but you don't want this overlapping, and the way to do that is to make sure the background is 100% opacity. All right, now the big situation here is that we have navigation only on the home page. So when I go here, okay, you see that? You're going to make that solid. When I go here, I have no way to move to the other pages without going back. So you want to correct that. Bring this up a little bit, close that space a little, and make this a little larger. I think this is probably a little small for this font. You know, fonts are different. Let's see. This is good. Let's close this space up. And we need to make sure that the footer has the the date. It seems it's on your home page, but if it's in the footer, it'll be on every page. So this is your About page, but I have to go back. So you need to make sure that the navigation isn't hidden. So you want to select that and check to make sure it isn't hidden, that it's showing on every page. A little more info on these, what your role was, all right? And there's a lot of white space over here. I would probably bring one over here, okay, and give some description here, and one here, your video, and then your description, and then, well, your photograph, and then your description of this one right here. All right, so go back, look at the contact. Okay, let's remove this. And again, check out your footer. Make sure it's showing on every page. Okay, make sure you didn't send a different one. Okay, all right, so let's take a look at the mobile. There might be navigation there. There it is. All right. All right, so let's close this space up a little bit and make sure that we're not running over like that. We need to wrap that down here. Clear the navigation so it's not overlapping. Take this out, phone number, unless it's a free Google Voice. And close your space up here, but make sure you have your footer in there. Again, it may be that your footer is not, that you have it hidden and that it's not showing on every page. So you want to take a look at that. Close up some of this space, but you're going to first edit the desktop and add all your content there. That will affect your mobile, so you don't want to make changes on your mobile until you've done, finished your desktop. Now, changes you make on your mobile will not affect your desktop. Changes on your desktop will affect the mobile, but you still can go in and fix, some things for sure in your mobile. You're going to need a little more space in that header, and you can see how this has moved. And I would remove that, close that up. Make sure you link up to at least a LinkedIn. Close that up. Make sure that that is showing on every page. It's just a selection. And since this is the same image, you don't even need your home page. All right. Okay. Close that up a little bit. All right. All right. Great start, everybody. I'm excited to see where everyone is, and I can't wait to see where you are next week. All right, Wolfgang. I mentioned a little bit about, company names, so make sure that that's checked out. Look at your feedback on that. And this has got to be larger, right? 10 points. We need to have 16, 17, 18, depending on the font, but 10 is a little small. You do want higher contrast for your navigation here. Great image. And this is really good. Make sure you've got the same amount of space between each, but it's looking really good. And it's a little bigger here. Okay. All right. Okay. You're going to need a little more contrast here. Not a big fan of radial gradients. This is not the worst I've seen for sure. So if you want to keep it fine, we'll see how it looks on mobile. But always be careful with that, because usually if it's not in the right gradient, it does some funny things. All right, so let's see. Let's look at the mobile. I'm anxious to see that gradient. Let's make sure we clear the navigation. Okay. Maybe a little more than we need here. Maybe your name and what you do would be better there. Okay. Let's make sure, are these all yours? Good. Okay. Okay. Great start. Not a lot of tweaking to be done. All right. Andre. Dre, I really like where you're going with this. I probably would extend this to the full length and delete the login. Let's see. This feels a little bit like a resume bullet point kind of thing. You need a little spacing under headings. If you're going to have that, you'll need space under that. And so the image, I think, isn't really large enough for all of that in the way that it is. It would have to be wrapped, or you could create another section underneath it and just have this be with your photo. And make it a little larger. Text, that is, the font size. And then you can bring this, you can have this in a section underneath it. And my approach could be another, let's see. Yeah, the issue here, unless you had a larger image that was good, resolution, and even then, I think you want to break this up a little bit. You definitely want more space. And what you have here is a bullet, and then you have something here, but it seems like that should be a bullet, or it shouldn't be there, right? Because you've got bullet, space, bullet. So yeah, just a little bit of working this out, but the colors are fantastic. This needs to be centered, and let's see. Understand that contact and a subscription are not the same. All right, when you give them an email, when they fill this in and they subscribe, that means you're creating content to send to them. So it's not really how they contact you. Okay, nice. We just need to have a little bit about these. Okay, and you can leave some room to include the asset guide that you're going to need. Okay, let's see what that's about. Get rid of that. Okay. Let's remove the login and not ask people to log in. You probably don't have a page for people to do that, and we don't want anything that asks them to pay. So we just want a place where you can send them to look at your examples and try and get some work, okay? So let's add actually a contact form here. Remember, this is a subscription. They are giving you their email. You need a place where they can contact you, all right? And this needed to be deleted, okay? You just select it and hit delete on your keyboard. All right, everybody. One more mobile. Let's take a look. And again, we want to clear the navigation bars. That page is going to come off. And you're going to add a contact form. Okay, interesting colors. I do like that. It scrolls a little better, right, on mobile, just a little bit better. So I like the colors that you have here. Okay, a little more space under headings and things. But this works a little better here. Maybe it's just the desktop that needs some working out. This does need to be closed up a little bit. And let's get rid of this, okay? And whatever that is. I'm not sure what that is. Okay, so this has been changed. We want to work on that. If Moondust Studio is actually a name of yours and you are registered with your state and up to date on your fees, then that's fine. But otherwise, I recommend just using your name. All right. So yeah, a little more time, and then these will be ready next week. So I'm excited to see where you are. If you have any questions about this week or any of the assignments, there is going to be a couple of sessions tomorrow, and I think tomorrow's Wednesday. So check that out on your meetings tab, and you can always jump in and get the help that you may need. All right, everybody. Have a great afternoon, and I look forward to seeing your work next week.